Welcome to the Empowered Lifestylers podcast, a movement and community designed to help you live your best life and reconnect you back to the things that really matter. Today, it's a solo episode here with me, Kate, and I'm really excited to be diving into this topic around conscious parenting. Now, if you haven't seen, we recently published a book called Creating Conscious Kids, helping our children find their happy place in the age of distraction. We have 3 kids. Our kids are 12, 14, and 16. And empowering our kids to live their best life while we do the same is one of our greatest joys. And it's a huge focus that we have not only for ourselves, but also really in empowering other conscious parents along their journey as well. You know, in the last 25 years, my husband Anthony and I, we've been in the wellness space, but we got to work with a lot of families, seeing a lot of the challenges and the frustrations that well-meaning parents had, you know, dealing with lots of outside pressures, opinions of others. And now we have technology, social media, and all sorts of things that our children are faced with that, you know, when we were growing up was definitely not even part of, you know, the scenario. So, you know, I want to share a couple of statistics with you, not to shock you, but just to bring a little bit of sense of reality as to what is going on for our families out there right now. And for you, you might have been able to avoid some of the things I'm about to speak about, which is amazing, but you might be in the thick of it. And so I really want this podcast to be not only empowering for you to feel like there are steps that you can be taking in order to get a deeper connection with your children, to have them feel more stronger in their sense of self, to help them find and follow their passions, and to have a feeling of unity and that your family is a team versus us versus them. And that's a lot of the feelings that when I'm speaking to parents at the moment that they're frustrated with. And I'm also going to dive into, in this episode, a couple of questions that I asked inside our empowered parenting community and some of the challenges that parents have been sharing. And I'll also give some insights around that as well, and possibly that will land with you too. Before I jump in, if you don't yet have a copy of our book, you can go to consciouskidsbook.com and get your copy either as a digital or an audio version today. So the first thing I want to talk about is that the harsh reality that is going on right now. And it doesn't matter what country you live in. It doesn't matter, you know, what background you have. This is something that our children are facing on a global scale. And parents are doing their best, absolutely doing their best, but they're also at a loss. They're frustrated, they're concerned, they're worried, and there's also a lot of pressure on them too. So I want to, as you listen to this, I want you to be kind and gentle to yourself and also to other parents on their journey. And I also want you to take what I'm sharing seriously too, and not just brush it off and go, oh, well, one day I'll get around to it, or it's not important right now. There's 2 ways you can parent. There's one that you can just be reactive. So when something goes wrong, then you deal with it, you focus on it, or you can be intentional and deliberate and actually carve out quality time with your kids. Think about the character traits and the experiences that you want to create for your kids and be thoughtful in creating those things versus being reactive. And so there's no right or wrong. Everyone has their own journey. If you can be in a space where you're more empowered, that you're more deliberate and intentional in your parenting, the connection you have with your children, the quality of relationship that you will have, and the joy that comes with that journey will be far, far greater than if you just stay in a reactive place. So what we're seeing right now is that the next generation are really struggling. The average child spends 30% of their waking hours on a screen being influenced by who knows what. And that's confirmed by the Australian Institute of Family Studies. Suicide is the leading cause of death in teenagers, and this just freaks me out. 1 in 2 young people impacted by suicide, be it a family member or a friend. 34% of children report being bullied, being cyberbullied. And, you know, this is going on through so many different ways, via text message, via social media. I was chatting to a beautiful girl the other day, and A whole bunch of people at school decided to create a hate page about her, and she's literally just trying to do her best, moving through the teenage years. If we can all reflect on how challenging that was for our own, journey, and then you throw things like this into it as well. The confidence that all of a sudden people have behind a keyboard instead of having a face-to-face conversation, it's really disappointing. In modern families, the average parent spends just 5 hours communicating face-to-face with their children each week. And in just 40 years, the number of overweight or obese school-age children and adolescents has increased tenfold globally. Along with this is the myriad of preventable health conditions that are connected to obesity. And, with my background in health, and I see so many different labels and challenges that parents, are trying to work through their children with, so much of it can come back to our nutrition. But I want to just kind of check in on those things that I just said. Our screens, technology, we teach our kids that technology can be your best friend or your worst enemy. There's so much great things and impact that we can create through technology. Right now, because of technology, I'm speaking with you, whether you're driving the car, doing the washing, out and about. We have this in our hands, which is phenomenal. Yet we can also waste hours of our life. The research showing what excess technology is doing to our children's brain, to their nervous system. They're at poor quality sleep because they're on screens late into the evening. There's so many elements to that. Not getting outside and playing, boosting their immune systems, moving their bodies, and affecting their health and well-being. So there is that side of things. But when I speak to parents, and I've been on so many calls with beautiful parents lately, the one thing that they want is that their children are happy. They just want their kids to find their happy place. Yet with the technology and the modern day life we have right now, if we just slip into the slipstream of that, it's really going to put our kids on this cycle that is really hard to get off. And so that's what this conversation is about today with you. That, what can you do in your home right now? Because there's global statistics I can keep talking about, but I want you to think right now, your relationship with your kids, regardless of how old they are. If you've got a 2 or a 13-year-old right now, I don't want you to just think about what's life going to be like for the next X amount of years until they're under your roof. I want you to think about, how is our life going to be for the next 50 years? What do I want my relationship to look like with my kids, as they go through teenage years, in their 20s, traveling the world, adventuring, whatever it might look like? What's the relationship I want to have with them? And that actually starts getting built today. And maybe you're at a space right now where you don't love what's going on in your home. There might be some friction. There might be some hormones happening. Maybe you've gone about things in a way that you're not proud of, and you'd like to change that and change paths, and that's beautiful. It doesn't matter where you're starting from. Just know that to begin with, the vision of what you would love to create for your family is so important. So rather than just looking about what's wrong, first of all, let's start with what's right. What would you love more of in your home? What would you love to have one-on-one with your child or your children, one-on-one time, one-on-one experiences, one-on-one conversations? And then think about, when your children are having a tough time, have you built a village around you so that it's not just you, but there's other people that they know they can lean on, they know they can trust, to be able to ask advice, to share feelings, and just to be able to go to for support. And if you don't have that right now, there's a beautiful saying, it takes a village to raise a child. And I honestly believe that. I don't think that I can be everything to each of my children, but I want to help them find their people so that they know, if it's not me or if it's not their dad, Anthony, that they've got good people in their life that are in their corner that they can go to. Because I've been speaking to some parents lately where their kids have gone through some really tough stuff, and they haven't gone to their mum and dad about it. And that's okay if you've got a village built around your kids so that they can be supported. But if they go to no one, and if they just try and battle through it, that's tough. That's why we're seeing the increase in medications, and for even antidepressants and things like that. There's a lot of kids that they don't have, there isn't a trust or a bond formed with parents, because we can get into a place, and look, I'm guilty of this. I'm not pretending to be perfect by any means, where it's just, here's the rules, do as I say, go get it done. And there's going to be times where you just got to step into that mode of, right, like, let's get the chores done, let's get the thing sorted. But ultimately, if you think about what's the relationship you want with your kids, I'll share what I want with mine. I want that if there's ever something that's on their mind, on their heart, they've stuffed up, they've messed up, they're scared about, that they know that they can come to me and they can share with me whatever's going on. And they know that they aren't going to get yelled at. They're not going to get in trouble. They're not going to get judged to start with. We just get to talk it out. And we get to explore what's going on and ask great questions and try and help them move through it versus them going it alone. And I think that's a really, for me, it's one of my focuses that I have, particularly our kids now, 12, 14, and 16, going through those teenage years. There's a lot of different stresses and pressures that are going on right now for them, that I want them to know that they can come to me. And so you're going to have a different version of what you would love your family to look like, and that is perfect. By no means is this about telling you what to do or how to do it. I think one of the most beautiful things, if we can as a parent, is really help our children find their genius. And not everyone is going to be cut out for school. Not everyone is going to be, an academic. Not everyone is going to be maybe physical. And so there's a beautiful quote by Einstein that says that everybody is a genius. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it's stupid. And so what we want to do as parents is step into our kids' shoes a little more often. Sometimes we forget that we were once like them. We were once frustrated. We were once a bit awkward. We once had lots of hormones running through our bodies. And we sometimes want them to grow up a little too fast, and we forget that they're just a little boy or a little girl in sometimes a big gangly body as they're growing, through the teenage years. I think that's really important. Secondly, sharing stories with your kids is the most beautiful builder of bridges, and it bridges generations. What do I mean by that? When you can share a story about something that might have been similar or that you experienced growing up. For example, bullying might have been, it might not be cyberbullying, but maybe someone wrote something on the inside of the toilet door, when you were at school, or there was a note written about you, or maybe it didn't happen to you, but it happened to a friend. And you can empathize and connect with your kids about that. Maybe there was a teacher they just had it in for you and just got super nasty, or maybe there was a time you lied to your parents and you hid something from them. If you can share these things with your kids, it is amazing how that melts barriers. It really does. It breaks things down where they feel like, mum or dad or carer, they've been through something like that before. And they got through it, and they kind of maybe get how I feel right now. If we don't step into our kids' shoes and empathize and feel how they might be feeling, we can start to make up all sorts of stories in our own heads as parents and carers that do not serve us at all. And we can actually cause an even deeper wedge in between us and our kids. And so this is where I want to dive into some of the questions that have been asked inside our community. And hopefully they're helpful for you as well. And if not you now, maybe they will be down the track, where you can just gain some insight, because maybe you won't be in this exact position, but you can learn different questions that you can ask your children to gain more perspective of life, what's most important to them, what they would love to do with you, the quality time they want to have with you, rather than trying to decide for them, actually engaging in conversation. So I want to read a quote to you that I think is beautiful. And this is something that I remind myself of daily. All our kids want is our time. And there will come a day when we give anything to have theirs. Play the board game. Eat dinner as a family. Tuck them in and tell them a story. There's no gift we can give them more precious than time. I think that's so beautiful and just encompasses all the things that I would love you to be thinking about and feeling about when it comes to the relationship that you want to have with your family. So I asked a couple of questions inside our community. So the first one was, finish this sentence. I want to have a deeper connection with my kids and a deeper relationship, but. And it's so fascinating, all of the different answers that people gave. Some of them I've responded to inside the community. Some I thought I would just kind of jump straight in here and be able to, to do that. And so one beautiful lady shared that she's been separated from her children for many years and wants to rebuild their trust. And so I think to start with, if maybe you have family that there has been some disjointedness, there's been some breakdown, I think the other person just wants to know that they're on your mind and that you love them. And so, in this particular situation, this lady's kids are 10 and 12. So to be able to rebuild trust, it is coming in and stepping into shoes as if, you were a 10 or a 12-year-old wondering why there's been some distance, but wanting to be reassured that you are seen, that you are heard, that you matter, and that you are loved. And that spans across all ages. That's ultimately what people want. And so if we can help communicate those things to people that we love, be it children that we're estranged with, that it could be people, in their 20s, 30s, 40s, it's coming back to those fundamentals and being able to do that in their own way. I think another thing that a lady has shared is that things are always so chaotic in our house. It's hard for anyone to have any real connection. And so for those of you feeling that chaos, I would first of all suggest that you go through, and this is something that we cover inside our book. Again, if you don't have a copy, you can go to consciouskidsbook.com, where you actually do an audit of your schedule and you just write it all out, all of the things that are on the calendar, the sport, the extracurricular activities, the things you've committed to, and look at what actually is lighting the family up, what actually is fun, what's bringing energy, what's bringing joy, what are the kids loving, and what actually is causing stress. And if there's things on that calendar that are causing stress and mayhem in your home, and there's not enough white space in the calendar, then the answer is to start saying no. When you start saying yes to the things that really matter, the other things start to fall away. And so if you go through your calendar with a filter of, is this bringing more connection, joy, fun, happiness, harmony for our family? Yes, no. If it's a no, then you want to start making plans to start removing that. Again, inside the book, we talk about it, and inside our Empowered Families Academy, we dive really deep into this. It might be as simple as, okay, there's a sport that one of the kids is committed to, and it just doesn't work. You're driving on the other side of, town. It's taking forever. It's at a time when you're trying to get your little one to sleep or whatever it might be. And so it's just stressful. It's okay if you say, hey, we're going to put a pause on that next term. And we're just going to check in and see, if we're still really loving this. Just put a pause and just say, next term, we're not going to do that one. If you're volunteering or doing things that aren't really, causing happiness and joy, and you're doing it out of obligation, just say, hey, I've been loving supporting you, this cause, helping out, whatever it is. But for the next phase, I'm going to have to politely step back and love what you guys stand for. But I just need to put my family first. So those are the kinds of things that you want to think about as you start to look at this calendar of how you can start to create more white space, more connection, so that there is a space that it's not as chaotic when it comes to whatever you're up to, okay? Okay, so let's say that you go ahead and you start decluttering and you're having white space. What you don't want to fill it with is more stuff that is going to stress you out. It's actually okay to slow down. It's actually okay for your kids to have nothing on the calendar where they might go outside and play or color or ride a bike or just hang out. So one of the things that I've seen really shift for parents inside our community is when they start to declutter that calendar and not overschedule and overcommit for their kids. They just feel like they just get to take the biggest breath of fresh air and step into their week a little more calm and composed and less frantic and frazzled, which I think is really important. One of the things that I also love as, parents share some of their challenges that come up for them is what's a question you can ask yourself to frame it in a different way in order to be able to get the outcome that you want. So, for example, a beautiful lady has shared that she has shared care of her son, and her son always picks inopportune times to get her attention. And she's trying to figure out, well, she wants more connection, but. And so my suggestion is asking a question like this: how can I create and plan magic moments for the next time my son and I are together that brings us closer together? And so this might be the same for you, whether you have your kids full time, whether you're co-parenting or you're an independent mama or dad. How can you deliberately plan to create something in the calendar in the week that allows you to have one-on-one time with your child? So maybe if you've got 3 kids, thinking about how you can have it with each of your children. And it might be 15 minutes, guys. It doesn't have to be a huge thing. What I know to be true is that your presence is the greatest gift that you can give your kids. Another lady inside our community is sharing that she has a hard time slowing down and being present with her child, and she's 3 years old. Sometimes in our own mind, we create this list of things that are really, really important. I know for me, when our kids were younger, I had these unspoken rules about how I needed my house to look, what had to be organized and done. And at the end of the day, when you look back at, those little ones in a couple of years' time, are you going to remember if the washing was done or sorted, or, if the dishwasher was unpacked? Or are you going to remember that time you got to sit down and color or play Lego or whatever it is with your kids? So sometimes we create the franticness ourselves. We create this to-do list that is actually unnecessary, and it's causing more distance between us and our kids. So I encourage you to just check in with yourself on that. I know when I looked at the things that I thought were really important, and when I say thought, my actions were showing that was more important than quality time with my kids, when I shifted that and changed perspective to realize, like, in the scheme of it all, who really cares if that's clean or not, or if that's organized or not, but I got that moment with the kids. That's actually far more important. In my model of the world. Yours might be different, and that's okay. But I'm challenging you to check in with yourself and see what other questions you can be asking yourself to get a different outcome as well. So I think another question that I posed inside our community was, parents, what are you struggling with most right now? One of the most common answers is screen addiction, multiple, like the co-parenting side of things, where there's different rules in different homes, and also parents feeling like their kids are doing great and they're really happy about that, but mum or dad is feeling a little worn out and they're not having their own time to pursue their own goals, be it through their fitness, their passions, whatever it might be. And I think, look, I've felt those feelings before. It's great and go, oh, all the kids are happy. That's awesome. But what about me? And I think an empowered parent on the journey is actually where you are living your passion and visions, as well as bringing your children along for the ride. It doesn't have to be that you're giving up what matters most to you. Now, I do get that there's seasons when you have a little one and they're a little more dependent upon mama, for example, particularly if you're nursing or anything like that. That's going to be, a factor, that it's a season of life and you're just going to have to put certain things on pause. However, I know that when I go do something for myself, and when I say do something, it could be going and working out, it could be catching up with a girlfriend that I haven't seen in ages, and the kids kick out the stink and say, oh, it's not fair, I want to hang out with you. I let them know, hey, I love you so much. How much do you love it when you get to catch up with your best friend? Oh my gosh, I love it. Excellent. So do I. And I'm going to take this time and go and be with my best friend right now. And you're going to have a great afternoon with dad or with Nana or whatever it's going to be. So it's okay for you to put the oxygen mask on first. I think that is the epitome of an empowered family, is that mum and dad, or whatever the family looks like, is that the leaders of the family are taking care of themselves, are following their passions and bringing their children along for the ride so that your kids are always watching. They're always watching. They'll watch what you do, not what you say. And so you can't turn around and tell your kids, follow your dreams, do anything you want. You can be anything you want. And then you're not doing that yourself because you're putting everyone else first. That's not setting a great example for anybody. And that's not setting yourself up for success. So I think that's a really, really big one that I see very, very commonly in frustrated parents. From a screen perspective, we have done some previous episodes. I'll pop the links to those in the show notes. One of the big things I think that with screens is, and we teach this to our children, screens can be your best friend, or technology can be your best friend or your worst enemy. And it's how do we use them? Look, in an ideal world, would we love it if, it wasn't a factor that we had to deal with in parenting? Yeah. There's also some great things that technology brings us, right? So I would encourage you that you set up some rules of the game with your kids. Again, we do cover this in more detail inside our Conscious Kids book, that you have them earn screen time. And some of the, really incredible people around the world that I've been learning about and from is that they set up the rules of the game to say you get to earn your screen time. It's an hour of physical activity gives you half an hour of screen time, or reading a book for half an hour gives you half an hour of screen time, whatever it might be. You can set up some rules where they need to earn it. It's not a right, it's a privilege. And so you want to have the kids, and you too, doing the things that matter first, moving our bodies, getting outside, nourishing ourselves, learning, growing. And then the screen is a side benefit to doing the good things. Would it be great if we didn't have to have them earn screen time? Yeah, absolutely. But this is the world that we're living in right now, okay? So I would encourage you to look at that. The other thing that is good is if you recognize certain passions that your children have, I would encourage that their screen time is around that passion. For example, our daughter, obsessed with art. Like, she would happily paint, draw, create all day. And so her screen time, when she's on her phone or her device, she's watching videos, how-to videos of different ways of doing painting or clay or whatever it might be. And so she's actually learning and upskilling in her passion. When our boys were younger and we just had DVD player instead of, online streaming where everything's available all the time, they would watch Steve Irwin on repeat on DVD. And it was great because there was a start, there was a finish, it was in their passion. It was healthy. They got to see someone super passionate about, the environment and animals and making a difference. And they, got so much out of that. And so what is it that your children love that they could be, if they are on a screen, that they're actually watching something? Maybe they're obsessed with a certain sport and they can learn more about, top athletes in that sport. Or maybe it's fishing and they can, follow different people and learn different ways of fishing for certain things. I don't know what it is for kids, but if you're going to give them screen time, divert some of it to things that will actually fuel their passions and expand their awareness of things. When we have our kids watch something particularly around their passion, we'll say to them, great, at the end of that video, I want you to tell me 3 things that you learn or something that you can do differently from what this person does. And what's your takeaways from that? Just so that it's not watch this, zone out, and, and mind-numbing stuff. Now, in saying that, I think as adults, we all have times where we just want to veg out. We just want to curl up, not think about anything and watch whatever. Our kids are the same. That's okay. However, if we are, on screens consistently, how can you use it as a tool for growth and learning instead of just something that, can easily be reverted to games or things like that? So I think it's really important that you check in on that, because there's a cost to your family every day of chaos in your schedule. There's a cost to your family every day of you not being fulfilled and putting everyone else first and not putting the oxygen mask on yourself. There's a cost to you not having presence with your kids. And so the sooner you realize and recognize your habits and patterns, and everybody's different. So asking yourself these questions and having some time to reflect on it, and you make these shifts, that's what's starting to change the deposits into, this beautiful relationship that you have in your family that can create more connection, more joy, more fun, more fulfillment as a family unit. And that is, our biggest passion. For Anthony and myself, we get to, mentor so many beautiful, incredible families that are just wanting a deeper connection, that they look at all of the outside influences, be it through social media, technology, opinions of others, and they just want to have a deeper relationship with their kids, create magic moments, and it not just be a blur. Because I don't know about you, as I record this, it's September 30. That blows my mind that, we are literally months away from 2025. And, time can just become a blur. If you don't schedule things with intention and be deliberate with your time, all of a sudden a term disappears just like that. Your kids are, taller than you in a heartbeat. And, it's like, how do we get to New Year's already? Where is this going? Why are there Christmas decorations in the shops already? And time can move so fast. It slows down when you become intentional, when you actually have moments and experiences and memories that you get to deliberately create because you've slowed down and done that. You've chosen to be intentional with the way that you parent. And if there's one wish I have for you, it's that. It's just, how do I want it to be? What's the vision that I have for my family? Where am I right now? Knowing your gap, and then taking a step, just one, and then you can take the next and the next. But it's all about being kind to yourself, but being clear on what it is that you want to create. Maybe you are not wanting to repeat history of how you grew up, and you're wanting to provide a different childhood for your own children. Maybe you want to repeat it. Maybe there's elements that you had through your own childhood that you just love and you just want more of it. Or maybe there's other examples, that you've seen. You're just like, yeah, that's the kind of mum or dad or parent I want to be. And so you get to choose, What I've seen is that sometimes more people will put planning into getting pregnant than they will into, how do I want to raise my kids? How do I want this to look and feel like? And yes, there's going to be times of chaos. There's going to be times where you are just wondering, what on earth do I do next? I get that. I've been there. Again, do not pretend to be perfect by any means. However, if you can slow down, be intentional, start thinking about, what are the conversations that you want to have with your kids? What do you want your children to feel comfortable coming to you about? If there is a challenge, what's the village you want to start building around your child or children so that they feel supported and that you feel, okay, maybe you're an independent parent and there's not a masculine or a feminine figure in your child's life that, is your partner, but you want to bring them in as a uncle or an auntie figure. So much more I could talk about, but I just really wanted to dive into this topic with you today. If you would like to join our Facebook community, I'll pop the link into the show notes as well. It's a community of like-minded parents just looking to learn and grow together. And then we do have our Raising Empowered Families Academy, where you get to work at a much deeper, closer level with us. And we take you through a blueprint that shows you exactly the questions to ask, the format to set up your family in the way that is in alignment with your visions and your values, as well as then how do you help your children find their vision and values and their happy place, and actually encourage them to go live that as well. So pleasure being with you today. As mentioned, I will pop all the links to our book, our academy, our online community into the show notes, and look forward to hearing from you. Let us know if there's anything that stood out from today's episode. I would love to be able to support you, answer any questions that you have. And until next time, stay empowered and look forward to speaking with you on a future episode.